Good morning to the Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, radio listeners via St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM, respective radio stations island-wide, TEL TV Plus, Channel 15, and online viewers. I'm Charity Dunker, and welcome to the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, July 24th, 2024. At this time, I'd like to invite the Honorable Minister of Finance, Marinka Gums, to address you.
Thank you, Charity. Fellow colleague ministers, members of the press, and to the people of St. Martin, good morning and blessed day to all. I would like to provide updates on several important matters to be shared with the public. Payment to vendors. I have been approached by several vendors asking about outstanding payments. It is deeply regrettable that vendors have to chase after government to receive payment for services rendered. While the new financial system and processes will improve this situation in the long term, an interim solution is needed. As the Minister of Finance, it is important to clarify to the public that each ministry operates within its own budget. Payments are issued by the Ministry of Finance only after all necessary approvals have been secured and the relevant advice has reached the Finance Department. In the short term, vendors will be required to send their invoices to a centralized email address. The invoices will then be distributed within the organization for approval. This way, finance will be aware of the financial obligations of the country and will also be able to monitor the time taken from receipt of invoice to its approval by the specific ministries. This new process will be published within the coming weeks as it has already been approved by the Council of Ministers. Our goal is to improve government processes and make these more efficient for both vendors and residents of St. Martin. Vacation allowance subsidized school teachers. Specifically concerning the situation with subsidized school teachers and their 1% vacation allowance, although this is not my direct responsibility, I have received numerous texts from teachers regarding the payment issue. The perception is that this falls under the responsibility of finance. However, this matter falls under the Ministry of Education. Nevertheless, after receiving confirmation that the Ministry of Education has made the necessary provisions to include this allowance in the amended budget for 2024, I decided to look into the matter further, as I personally find it unfair that teachers of subsidized schools have to wait until the budget is amended while all other civil servants received their payments in June. Together with the Ministry of Education, we examined the situation and confirmed the payments can be made within the current budget for 2024, in anticipation of the Budget Amendment 2024. This advice has been drafted and is currently going through the approval process within government, and we intend to have this advice approved by the Council of Ministers next week and subsequently transfer the funds to the subsidized schools. Tax reimbursement or tax restitution. I have been reviewing the tax reimbursement process and have gathered crucial information that I believe the public needs to know when it comes to receiving their reimbursement from government. The current process is in no way beneficial or fair to the taxpayer. And after assessing this, as Minister of Finance, I can firmly state it needs to be revised. To ensure clarity on this matter, I will be creating a separate video to share this key information to the public this week. Income tax returns. With regard to tax returns, I have received various inquiries about the prolonged processing time of income tax returns. Currently, the tax office is busy with the year 2021. This delay is primarily due to system limitations and manpower constraints and inefficient processes. Another critical factor is the tax tables, We are diligently working to finalize the tax tables for the years 2023 and 2024, which unfortunately should have been completed prior to the start of those specific years. This delay impacts both the tax office, employers, and employees on the island. If these tax tables were published timely, it would have ensured correct tax deductions during the year by the employers on the salaries of the employees. Not having these in place in a timely manner leads to incorrect payroll summaries at the end of the year and more work for the tax office when processing the income tax returns. Budget Amendment 2024. The budget amendment for the year 2024, I would like to update you on the amended budget for the year 2024. We have made the necessary revisions to the budget and submitted it to the Committee for Financial Supervision, CFT, for Article 11 review. We have received their feedback and are currently making the final adjustments. Our goal is to submit this to the Council of Advice at the beginning of August. We have made cuts in the 2024 budget, reducing both income and expenses to 26 million guilders. The issue of the tourist tax, which has been included in the budget for the past 2 years and had to be taken out in both years, faced delays due to the lack of a board at the Social Economic Council, the SER. This has stalled many necessary laws for our country. Unlike the previous administration, we have taken measures to address the issue at its core to ensure that the law can progress and actually reach Parliament for implementation. I am pleased to announce that after being inactive for more than a year, the SERS board's matter has been addressed, allowing our country to continue making the necessary legislative steps. This will allow the essential laws to be reviewed and continue in the process and will provide the country with the additional income to be able to provide the residents of St. Martin with the much-needed tax relief to increase their purchasing power as they have been carrying St. Martin for the last years, and this is not sustainable anymore. Merchant restrictions for the bank card transactions. Lastly, I would like to address the issue of some merchants on the island requiring a minimum purchase amount to be spent in order for customers to make payments with their bank cards. The Windward Islands Bank has publicly stated that this practice is not allowed. I have inquired with other banks on the island and received confirmation from several that this practice is indeed not permitted. Once we have completed this investigation, I will make a formal statement to prevent this from happening in the future and to make sure that this is clear to all merchants. In closing, today, Dr. Claude Watty, the legendary leader of the Democratic Party, would have been 98 years old. I am here today, a proud member of the DP, because of his visionary leadership, and I pay tribute to his legacy by offering the University of St. Martin, which he was instrumental in establishing, 10 copies of the book Claude, A Portrait of Power. May he continue to inspire us all as we move on with the torch he has handed over to us to bring light to this dark period we are going through. Thank you for your understanding, your patience, as we continue to address various issues and make the much-needed improvements. Your continued support is greatly appreciated. It is crucial that we as a nation maintain mutual respect and consideration for one another. And as your Minister of Finance, I remain committed to keeping you informed. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister of Finance, Marinka Gums, for your opening remarks. I'd also like to invite you to remain at the podium. At this time, I'd like to invite the member of the media, Mr. Stephen Sererian of PJD2. You have the floor. Please pose your questions to the minister.
Thank you so much. Prime Minister, good morning to you. Ministers, good morning.
Good morning.
Minister, you said that you've received the budget amendment has been forwarded to the CFT. You have also received advice from the CFT as it pertains to that. Can you give us an idea as to what some of those advice are?
Well, the advice, thank you for your question, Mr. Cerulean. The advice that was received initially was that it was an inflated budget and therefore we needed to cut along all ministries. It was a tedious task, and it's still ongoing because I need to make sure that all ministries, while they are responsible for their respective budgets, understand that because it was inflated by the previous government, this now has the attention, and I'm talking about things such as the same tourist tax that was placed in not once but twice, and no legislation behind it. We also talked about the shares of Winair. So all in all, we needed to make sure that across the board, all ministries cut, and by doing so, we can then present a realistic budget. And I want to be in compliance with CFT and CFT guidelines, not only for the 2024 budget, but that of 2025 going forward.
Okay. Thank you, Minister. Also, thank you, Stephen. Ms. Jacqueline Hoffman of the Daily Herald, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good morning, Minister.
Good morning.
2 weeks ago, during the press briefing, Minister Lewis said that per inquiry, there was 8 million in the crime fund, and within a short period of time, there was 4 million less, with no explanation given as to where this money went. The audit chamber did a quick scan on the crime fund, establishing that the funds were used for purposes they were not intended for, and they recommended that the crime fund be incorporated in the national budget for you to have oversight as Minister of Finance. Mm-hmm. How do you feel that there is a budget with millions on it and you don't know where that money is spent on? And that's a personal question. And then what is the procedure to get this incorporated in the national budget, and have there been any discussions on that?
You know, to be honest with you, of course, you can imagine that I would want to have a clear overview as to what money is where. And the fact that I don't have a clear picture at this moment is not a good feeling. Allow me the opportunity to not only discuss this matter alongside the Minister of Justice, but as a Council of Ministers, and then be able to revert to you with a proper response. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good morning, and I'd also like to welcome Ms. Judith Fitzpatrick of the Daily Herald. Judith, do you have any questions for the Minister? Not at this time. Minister, thank you very much for answering your questions and for those opening remarks. Oh, 1 minute, Minister, sorry. Stephen Cerillion, you have a question you'd like to pose to the Minister?
Mr. The budget amendment, is there a time frame as to when it's supposed to be in Parliament? And my second question for you is, where does government stand as far as the amount of money in the coffers of government?
I think that was one of the questions that was posed at one of my earlier press briefing in reference to where we stand. Mr. Cerillion, I know you, as much as I would want to reveal that information at this time, I choose not to. For the interest of being in a you know, I really, while I would want to share and be open to sharing that information with the people of St. Martin, I think we need to be mindful of what is there, you know, what is really in the coffers of St. Martin. I don't want to scare anybody at this point. So we are working along with the budget that we have, and I would reserve that answer by basically saying we are doing everything in our power to making sure that going forward we have what we need to keeping this country where we want it to go. Your first question was about when it reaches Parliament. We are now going to a deadline of August, so everything is set now for reaching to August. The final budget needs to be approved. I know 2025 by December 15th, if I'm not mistaken, is the date.
Okay. Ms. Judy Fitzpatrick.
Thank you so much. Good morning, ministers, colleagues. I just wanted to follow up briefly on my colleague's question. I understand your reservation with giving any specifics as it relates to the country's financial situation, but can you indicate whether it has gotten any better from when you entered office? And what sort of revenue generating measures, on the short term, of course, because the government has a limited time, have you instituted or will you institute? I know you mentioned at an earlier press briefing that one of the areas you're looking at is stepping up controls to get as much as possible from the motor vehicle tax. But is there anything else that government is doing on the short term to raise much needed revenue? Thank you.
Due to timing, I can already tell you that one of the things that I looked at is, for example, those controls. And the controls, when I looked at the revenue from January through May at the time, 2023, where collection for a motor vehicle was concerned, was at 4 million plus. That was 2023. 2024, we were down 2 million. So hence the need to making sure that we step up on the controls where that is concerned. I have not received an update at this time how things have improved in that area as yet. But once I do get that information, I can furnish you with that.
Just if I may follow up on that as well, there are still many cars driving around with absolutely no plates on the front or the back. And some that do have plates, you can barely see it because it's covered by something. What does the law say about that? And is this something we're tackling, particularly given, the crime situation that we have?
Yeah, so by law, you're supposed to have your plate, front and back. We have also instituted the QR code sticker. They go hand in hand at this point. In reference to a number of cars, I have seen it reduce. As a matter of fact, I've now seen more cars with the plates on. I'm not seeing as much Ws anymore. So I guess people are now going in to not only make the payments and collecting their plates because that service has been provided or it's offered to individuals. The plates are here. So, yeah, I know that legally they're supposed to have their plates on. And I admonish everyone to making sure that they do go ahead, especially due to the crime situation on St. Martin right now, that we make sure that the plates are on your cars and that they are visible.
But what happens to someone, if they don't have the plates and they're still driving around? Is it something that we're going to clamp down on? Or?
Yeah, but that's the intention. And that's the intention for the controls because of the fact that it's not allowed to have individuals drive around without plates. And that tint on the plate, we need to see them. So the clamping down is definitely what we are working on and making sure that persons comply with the law.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Judy, and thank you, Honorable Minister. Moving along to the next Honorable Minister of Public Housing, Spatial Planning, Environment and Infrastructure, Mr. Patrice Combs. I'd like to invite you to the floor so you can make your address.
Members of the press, those viewing, listening, and online, good morning. A few updates from my end, and excuse my voice. I would like to remind everyone that tomorrow, Thursday, July 25th, roadworks will take place on AJC Browers Road, Colby Hill, to condemn the culvert and repair the road. As Minister, I want to state that the decision to undertake these works on a cruise ship day wasn't taken lightly and done in close consideration of availability of contractors and general safety security measures of the country. To that end, apologies, to that end, a number of measures have been put in place, and I'd like to share those with you this morning. Number one, the road will be closed from 6 a.m. for regular traffic traveling towards Colby. Roadworks will be provided one lane at a time. AJC Browers Road will remain open for traffic traveling to Phillipsburg. Large vehicles, including tour buses, equipment, and heavy trucks, will be allowed to use AJC Brower Road to head toward Colby. I repeat, large vehicles, including heavy equipment and tour buses, will be allowed to use AJC Browers Road to head towards Coal Bay. All other vehicles will be advised to get to Coal Bay via the commonly referred to Old Cake House Road. There will, of course, be active traffic management to assist in this regard. This evening, I have been invited to speak at the South Road Town Hall meeting to discuss VROMI's disaster preparedness plan. I encourage all persons in the area to come out and share your concerns. Thinking more holistically, I'd like to also inform the community that on Monday, noting the complaints of several persons on the island, I called a meeting with the haulers regarding the concerns that you have expressed to me about garbage collection and cleanliness of the island. A number of these concerns were addressed, and I'll also be sharing, in particular with the communities of South Road and Ebenezer, efforts that we have been taking to ensure that those concerns of garbage collection, as well as the bigger picture of how it fits into hurricane disaster preparedness, are addressed tonight. You're invited at 6:30 at MPC Gym for this session. Thirdly, World Mangrove Day is being celebrated on Friday, July 26th. On Saturday, July 27th, in collaboration with the Nature Foundation and partners, and with our partners in the maritime sector, the Ministry of VROMI is hosting a mangrove morning. This will take place at the new IGY building, Simpson Bay Yacht Club, behind Top Carrot. Guests can expect brief remarks from myself, and of course, remarks from experts on mangroves and the value of mangroves in building coastal resiliency, a very important factor now as we go into an anticipated very active hurricane season. In addition, guests can also expect free lagoon tours of the mangrove areas. This event will take place from 8 a.m. till 11 a.m., and I really encourage everyone, especially those unfamiliar with boating, the mangroves and the lagoon, to come out and get on the water. Finally, as Minister responsible for infrastructure and environment, and on a more personal note, as a proud Rotarian, I would like to announce that all Rotary clubs of St. Martin have come together and are encouraging everyone to reach out and provide support to the Hurricane Beryl Relief Fund that has been set up by the Rotary clubs of District 7030. I want to remind everyone that while we are in active hurricane season, let us not forget our Caribbean brothers and sisters who during our time of Hurricane Irma reached out and supported us. I encourage all of you to reach out and support, and you can do this by going online at rotarydistrict7030.org and giving your kind contribution. And those are the end of my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister of VROMI, Mr. Patrice Gomes, for your opening remarks. At this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Stephen Cirillo of PJD2 Radio. You have the floor, Stephen.
Thank you. Minister, you made mention of you being at the MPC for the town hall meeting tonight. That is clear. Help us to understand what is being done, seeing the fact that we are about to approach the peak hurricane season, to safeguard the people of St. Martin in the event of a hurricane, in terms of cleanup and what have you.
Indeed, thank you, Stephen, for the question. I'd like to also indicate that, as I mentioned a few times, the cleanups have been happening. That's part of the district cleanups. That is part of the contracts already issued and ongoing. What we've realized within VROMI is that because of the amount of precipitation, rain that we've been having over a couple of months, what may seem like areas being unclean and untended to is actually the fact that many places just have continued to have overgrowth with the amount of water we are having. There's also been a number of emergency trench works that have been happening, noting again that the trenching contract still hasn't been awarded. That's something we are working on finalizing by next week, because the urgency of having regular maintenance of the trenches, particularly given the very active hurricane season. But I do want to reiterate that cleanups have been happening. They've been happening quite actively since the beginning of this year, but noting the amount of precipitation weather, some areas may seem as if they're not tended to, but they are. With regards to an island-wide cleanup, I've been in discussions as well with the collectivité to see how we can jump on board with their island-wide cleanup. They're, of course, open to it and working on a plan to which I promised the Council of Ministers a very clear outline of how we're going to address cleanup, and in particular, the number of wrecks, which are a growing concern for St. Martin that are around the island. I think what's very important to also mention, and I think it's something that many people fail to realize, the previous administration actually Minister of Rummy actually did 2 or 3 car wreck removals in the last 2 years. And we still have the same problem again. So one of the key things that we're trying to do is ensure there's an educational component towards just cleaning up. It's a responsibility of persons in their own community to also point out that, leaving a car wreck may be a quick solution for yourself, but in the long term, it causes problems for your neighborhood. And in the event of very active hurricane season, that debris is concerning. And of course, the same car wreck left there can cause damage to your home. So I think the big part of what we're doing differently is making sure the active educational component to change behavior is also part of just the regular cleanup as well.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, and also thank you, Stephen. Ms. Jacqueline Hoffman of the Daily Herald, you have the floor.
Thank you. Minister, could you give an update as to the concerns that were raised by the Simpson Bay community concerning the big developments in the area?
Yes. Thank you for the question, Jacqueline. Indeed, it's something that has had my attention from the day I got in. We've actually started consultations with the Simpson Bay community. About 3 weeks ago, I was invited to a town hall to hear the concerns of the Simpson Bay community. We also, in the meantime, also reached out to one of the developers in the area regarding how we can find a resolution to the issue. There are, of course, particularities which we find interesting, is that the current zoning law or sort of policy regarding Simpson Bay area calls for a maximum of 4 stories. One project in particular has been approved for 7 stories. Where that deviation came from, we are not too sure what the justification was. It doesn't seem to be very clear. And these are the things that we have to address. I think for me as a minister, I think the idea has never been about stopping development. It's about sustainable development and making sure that if we have an area that calls for 4 stories maximum, what is the impact in terms of traffic, in terms of infrastructure, particularly for me, drainage, sewage, road integrity towards developing along these developments. One of the things that we are doing as Ministry of Rummy, in particular as Minister of Rummy, is trying to be sort of the facilitator of these 2 very seemingly different opinions about what Simpson Bay should look like. And I think the point of it, long story short, is where it is allowed, we trying to see how we can bring the community and the developer together. That's something that we're personally doing. And where it's not allowed, we have to address what went wrong, and also to indicate what process in the permit process are we, and what can be done to either stop the development and have it readjusted to fit what is in the policy, and where it's gone too far beyond the permit process because there's an objection period. If that objection period has passed, then we have to see how we can look at it from a legal point of view. Is a development, for example, that's currently, that was noticed within the objection period, and the Ministry of Rummy is now actively arranging a meeting with the developer to sort of see where we can go forward with the realization that what was allowed wasn't allowed, and we have to then come to a solution towards rectification of that problem.
That is in Beacon Hill.
Indeed.
But is it possible that a permit given by the previous administration for a building with 7 stories can be limited still to 4 stories?
Yes, so indeed, it depends on what period legally. So there's, of course, the legal issues. So there's a legal issue of if the permit period has passed, government then is continuous. So it can't be that because I come in and I see something wrong with it, I can just pull the permit simply because it means that the government will have, of course, have financial ramifications, possibly court cases against it, litigation. What we can do, of course, is look at how we can what new measures we can put in place to basically put into question were all the processes followed. For example, many people don't know, you have to actually publish these kinds of permits in the national, the Lance Courant, so the National Gazette. Was it timely published? Did persons have time to give complaint or sort of give their sort of objections to the building actually happening? If that's happened, for example, after the fact of the building happening, then these are the spaces that we within Bromley can look and say, okay, something didn't go right here, and based on that, let's bring in the person, see how we can adjust and how we can go forward. But I fundamentally believe that if there's no justification properly towards a deviation from the policy, that's something that needs to have significant insight, and it has my attention.
But that leaves the issue with the National Gazette that for no one it's really visible what the permit was given for. It just says permit given, but it doesn't say a 7-story building or a 6-story building on the beach,
Yeah.
for instance, or a parking garage in the beach and a swimming pool in the beach.
No, and on that point, and I'll be brief on this last point, and on this point is that I think we've had the discussion within Vromi as well. How do we take the National Gazette, which, let's be very honest, isn't being read by the average person, how do we make that more sort of tangible for everybody? And also, too, how much can we put forward in terms of public information? Because, of course, building permits are public information. People can always request. But once it is published, you can request a copy of the building permit. But, of course, if you're not reading the National Gazette, which many people are not, you're not going to be aware of it until you start seeing a building come up. So how do we bridge that gap and make government more transparent? That has my attention as well, and something that we're looking at to see how we can also publish this somewhere else except the National Gazette. If it needs necessary legal changes to make that happen, we'll address that. But I think for the short term, given the rampant development that's happening, given the limited space, given the very heavy strain on infrastructure, I think we have to come with a practical solution on how we can address sustainable development, and that is what I'm focused on in this period. Yeah.
Thank you, Honorable Minister of Romi, Mr. Patrice Combs, for your opening remarks and also for answering the questions posed by the members of the media. At this time, I'd like to invite the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of General Affairs, Dr. Luc Marcelina, to address you. Good morning, Minister.
Good morning to the people of St. Martin, to the members of the media, and the persons from the CoM department. Good day. Today, of course, I'm going to address the unfortunate, regrettable shooting incident that took place recently on the 17th of July here on our island. It's very regrettable and actually a horrible act that took place in our community, especially realizing that our St. Martin is traditionally not known with such acts. And for that reason also it has my attention for us to make sure that we can guarantee safety and stability in this community. The first thing that I did is on the Thursday after the incident Wednesday night is that I had a meeting with the prosecutor's office, with the Minister of Justice, with the VDSM, with the head of police, myself as Prime Minister, for us to actually, and the President of Parliament, for us to have a first crisis meeting to see how we're going to mediate in this latest development. And after that, we had a meeting on the 22nd of July, enhancing the group with including also the members of parliament. Actually, as you know, we have the trias politica, in which we have separation of powers, but in this case of the interest of the safety that has to be guaranteed to the people of St. Martin, the best approach is for us to unify in this case and have a common communication and standpoint on the way moving forward. As a Prime Minister of this country, I'm very aware of these latest developments. Before the Wednesday even, we had a spike of some shooting incidents already here in our community. And additional to, of course, the one that happened last week, Wednesday, I decided as Prime Minister of this country that we have to ensure safety for our people in our community. And that is the reason that in deliberation and in communication and in meetings with all the instances that secures safety for our community, I decided that we're going to enhance the enforcement of the police for Country St. Martin. And we decided that we're going to get an enforcement of 25 extra members of the police force, together from Curaçao, from Aruba, from St. Eustatius, and from Saba. We're going to get an enforcement of 10 police officers from Curaçao, 10 from Aruba, 3 from Statia, and 2 from Saba. That's the first step. Secondly, we got assistance from the SWAT team from Curaçao. They are here on the island, and it's a group of 6 persons enforcing and helping the police force of St. Martin. That is the SWAT team that Curaçao is helping us with. And next to that, we have a whole group of 23 persons from the RST that are also coming to St. Martin to safeguard the security of this country. Next to that, on election day, we're going to get assistance from the VKS, also from Country St. Martin. We are in negotiations with the Marie-José, the KIMAR of St. Martin, that is going to assist us to heading towards election day on the 19th of August and after that period too. And additional to that, to show our commitment that we are not going to succumb for threat of violence and violent behavior in this country, I requested military assistance from the kingdom to come to St. Martin. I have committed to the people of St. Martin that this Prime Minister is not going to tolerate violence, and especially not if this violence is going to threaten our democratic system of our country. So I do not want to have one regretful moment with an incident, and I decided that these are the big steps that this Prime Minister is taking to show the people of St. Martin that this Prime Minister is standing in for the safety for our beloved St. Martin. And especially because we are not accustomed to this, I want to, as soon as possible, tackle this problem for our society to get back the rest and the stability in a society that we were always accustomed to in the past. Next to that, I have more measures that I'm taking with the Council of Ministers, and one of them is that on the day of elections, selling of alcohol is prohibited. We are not going to allow the selling of alcohol on that day. Secondly, we are not going to permit agglomeration, gathering of groups of fans representing the different political parties by the polling stations. I do not want no citizen to be threatened, intimidated, or influenced on his way in all tranquility, contemplating for who he or she is going to vote. And thirdly, we are not going to allow public meetings anymore heading towards election day. We do not want gathering of people that we feel unsafe with, that there is a threat for agglomeration of people in our society where we cannot guarantee the safety of each individual person that wants to be present or assist one of these public meetings. And for us to guarantee safety of our citizens, I decided together with the CoM in a Council of Ministers decision that we are not going to permit agglomeration of people around polling stations. There was in the past some measures taken to to keep those groups from a distance from the polling station, still expressing their wishes and their support to political parties. It's their right in a democratic system. But because this is a snap election and there is also some tension in the community, this Prime Minister decided to have some radical decisions for us to guarantee great safety for the people of our country. So agglomeration of people around polling stations will not be allowed. Public meetings, as of now, are not going to be allowed, and no alcohol selling on the day of election. In summary, I hope that in this way, by taking this decision, that people are going to get, again, the reassurance that they have a serious government that is considering and guarding for the safety of their beloved St. Martin. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Luc Marcelino, for your opening remarks. Members of the media, at this time, if you have any questions that you'd like to pose to the Honorable Prime Minister, here's your opportunity to do so. I'd like to invite at this time, member of the media, Mr. Stephen Cerulean of PJD2. You have the floor.
Thank you so much. Prime Minister, let me get you clear. Are you saying that no public meetings will be allowed as of now?
Yes, we are going to. We had a public. We had a Council of Ministers meeting yesterday, so the Minister of Justice is now working on the ads and information to share with the people. But seeing the fact that this is a momentum to communicate with the people of St. Martin, I'm anticipating already on the agreement that we have and that the Minister of Justice is going to give follow-up on the base of a decision that has been taken in the Council of Ministers. And the public meeting for me are meetings that you need a permit from government to organize. If you have, for example, a private meeting on a private place for your supporters, that will be tolerated. At the end of the day, we are in a democratic community, and I think that should be possible. But all measures that I take with my government is to guarantee the general interest and safety of our people, and I think this is a way to mitigate and control and have a good overview about the safety for the people of this country. Every incident costing a life of one citizen of this country is an attack on the community of St. Martin. And regrettable, we paid a too high price last week, Wednesday, and I'm not going to tolerate that for the people of my country, and that is the reason that I took this rigorous decision for my community.
You spoke of assistance coming from Seba, St. Eustatius, Curacao, Aruba, and Bonaire. You made mention of the RST, the Marechaussee, and you also said that you have the SWAT team from Curacao on the island. What really caught my attention was the fact that you're requesting the assistance of the army to be on St. Martin. It sounds like you're calling for a state of emergency. Is that the case?
At this particular moment, we have a threat for the safety of our nation. And why it's a threat? Because traditionally, historically, we have never been exposed to this type of violence in our community. And I do believe that I have to take all measures necessary to bring back the mindset of my people in a way that how we used to live with each other. And I'm not going to tolerate this in this society, and that is the reason that I took these measures. Every life that we lose is one too much. If something happens tomorrow and somebody loses his or her life, people will look at me and told me, you knew it, why didn't you take the necessary measures? Now I know it, what is possible in this community, and because of that knowledge, I think it's my task and my responsibility to take the decisions that I can sleep comfortable with at night as the leader of this country.
The question remains, are you calling for a state of emergency, taking into consideration the situation as is at this time?
No, I'm calling for an exposure of protection on a high level for the people of my country. That is what I'm doing. And I hope that you are feeling comfortable with what I am taking with my government as measures for you to be safe in your country, and I hope you can appreciate that.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister, and also thank you, Stephen, for your question posed to the Prime Minister. Ms. Judy Fitzpatrick of the Daily Herald, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. I do want to follow up on the same issue regarding all of the assistance that will be coming in. Can you give us an indication as to how long they will be here for? And of course, there is no price tag really that you can put on security, but what would be the cost of all of this for the government of St. Martin?
We need, of course, budget for what the decisions that we took as a government of St. Martin. And of course, we are financially challenged in our budgetary possibilities that we have, but we are making use of our catastrophe budget reservation that we have to make use of those funds to actually finance the necessary costs that comes with a decision like that. And hopefully, of course, the kingdom will accommodate us with the necessary safety without a too high price tag. And that is what is, I hope, realizing the threat of safety for our nation. But in principle, we have to be able to pay for safety for our country. And there is no excuse to protect life in this country. So I will go all the way for us to be able to pay to save lives in this country. And that is why I took this rigorous, aggressive decision for the country.
So you haven't answered the question. What is the cost? What is the budget that we'll be paying for this? And how
I have
long
been
are they
so
going to be
busy
here?
with taking decisions for making this happen for the country that the objective why I'm doing this is for me more important than the cost, and I'm now in the phase of giving follow-up to actually calculate the costs for it. I don't mind to come back on that question with an answer, but I do believe now that the priority is bringing back full safety and stability in our people, and for us to stop with the hatred, the insult, and especially all those messages that are being sent on social media that is contributing in dividing our country. And I'm making use of this opportunity as a Prime Minister of this country to ask my people of my country to please stop this sensational exposure of message on social media. It's contributing to only what we call melee. It brings a lot of restlessness in our community, and actually only sensational dimension dislocates in our community, and at the end of the day, it's not going to contribute to the much needed unification in our country that we need now. If you want a way to combat violence, aggression, and separation of people, the only way to do that is for us to unify with each other and make use of your phone, of your social media, to send messages out that are going to stimulate the unification of our people, instead of constantly thinking that by inventing some story that is not based on the reality, that you're going to just entertain people for the sensation, and on the long term think that you're going to achieve admiration for your nation with that. It's not going to happen, so I would like to make use of this opportunity to ask my people of St. Martin to calm down on exposure on social media, especially if you do not have a good intention to contribute to unification of the society.
Prime Minister, how long is it that we're looking to have this external assistance here? Is it a month? Is it 2 months? Is it until just after
we are
election?
starting as of now. A section of what I have mentioned is already on the island. They are very professionally here that even the society does not know that they are here. But at a certain moment, the group is going to be so large, the presence on public roads will be so evident that everybody will realize that they are here on the island. And secondly, for sure, we are starting as of now. The SWAT team, for example, is already here on the island. A section of the 25 police officers are already here on the island. and I'm going to get today the information when the military will land here in St. Martin.
And if I may just clarify one last issue, Prime Minister, regarding the stopping of all public meetings.
Yes.
If there is someone out there that is organizing something that is not politically related, so let's say a party or a summer festival, where there would be an equally large or an even larger gathering, what would happen in a situation like that?
They will individually, the measure that I can take is those that needs a permit to organize. That is then in consideration of government to evaluate what are the risks for those attending those events, and on the basis of separately, individually analyzing all those petitions, we will decide. But we decided already, if it's politically related with campaigning, we are not going to give a permit for those to take place.
So private public events would be evaluated on a case-by-case basis?
Case-by-case basis, and all referring to the degree of the safety threat for those attending. I'm not against gathering of people. I'm not against going against people having a good time with each other. But I have, at the end of the day, a great responsibility for the safety of the people. And that's why I shared with you just now the information that I just gave you.
Thank you for the answers. I did say, but I do have one more, Prime Minister.
Yes.
Usually election is held on a Friday. This year it falls on a Monday. Mm-hmm. And of course, many of the polling stations are at our schools. So my question is, has any consideration been taken as to whether there will be school the day following election, which is a Tuesday? And of course, many people would be working late into the night. Mm-hmm. So would civil servants also, would everyone have to work the following day? And would schools be adequately prepared if indeed there would be schools after? Thank you so much.
Yes, we are busy with evaluating that too with the Ministry of Education. And it's, of course, the Minister of Justice, too, that is the one supervising the Ministry of Education, the acting minister. So for me, it's very easy. It's combining two in one. And with him, we're going to discuss the decision-making if something is going to be done on the Tuesday in measures with opening or not of schools. But until now, we did not take a decision on the follow-up being the Tuesday, the 20th, the day after elections. We know that election is on a Monday, the 19th, and we will come back on a decision that has been made for the Tuesday, the 20th of August. You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you, Judy, for those questions, as well as thank you, Prime Minister, for answering. Moving right along to Ms. Jacqueline Hoffman of the Daily Herald. You have the floor, Jackie.
Prime Minister, these measures do not change the fact that people who leave the prison, many of them have no place to go. There is no halfway house in St. Martin. There is no taller social. The container cells that were promised by the previous administration to Turning Point to use as housing for those that battled their addiction with success, that have no houses, that end up on boardwalk or in empty buildings to sleep. There is a reality that part of the society has no means, has police record that lasts for 5 years, so they can't get a job, and there is no taller social. So you can have measures to have more oppression, but at the same time, are there going to be initiatives to counter it on the other side, from a social point?
Yes. Okay, thank you for that question. I'm doing a lot for this community, but I want you to realize one thing. I'm here only 8 weeks in office, and I'm aggressively and proactively trying to solve the problems of this country. And of course, there are problems on all fields in our community. But we are with 7 ministers in a CoM, and it's impossible for us to solve all the insufficiencies and deficits of our society in the 8 weeks that I'm in office. And I'm trying, believe me, I wish a day was more than 24 hours, I would use that too. But if you realize the challenges that I have encountered as Prime Minister with my government in the issues and problems of this community, I'm thinking that we are doing a wonderful job, step by step, day by day, trying to solve the challenges and problems of this community. And I have to start somewhere. Safety is now a problem. I have to tackle the safety issue of this country. And of course, safety has multiple dimensions. I understand that too. But I cannot, in the position that I'm in the short period in government, solve all of them. I will take measures to mitigate it, to try to make it acceptable and livable for everybody in this country. And that is how this government is moving, step by step, day by day, solving the problem. GEBE has been a monster problem in our community. See how tranquilo, step by step, balanced way we are trying to solve the problems of GEBE, etc., etc. So I wish that I could tackle all the problems as the ones that I've been tackling, but at the other side, the people of St. Martin has to realize that we are serious in this government, that we have shown that we can deal with the severest challenges in this country. So it's up to them if they want continuation of our actions or if they want something else for the future of this country.
Jackie, this is your final question.
Okay. What is the status of the $200 million from the World Bank, seeing that this amount of money is close to the amount that is on the national budget per year? We know that the housing project, social housing project in Hope Estate is not going to go through because of the funds not being available anymore.
Yep.
What happens with the 200?
Very good. I have had a visit, as you know, by the State Secretary, Mr. Sabot, the State Secretary of Kingdom Relations, and I have discussed this for us to be exactly with you. There is still 230 million remaining on the World Bank as the funds that we can still use. And I said it already, our biggest challenge is not that we cannot spend that money. Our biggest challenge is that we cannot spend that money because we do not have the experts, the professional treasury that we need to guide the execution of these projects. And one of my missions to Washington was to actually explain the World Bank that we can continue saying that we're getting to the ultimatum to use this amount, but please, let us reconsider where we are standing here, that St. Martin is in dearly need of this project, and let us realize that it's not the execution of the plans as such, but if we don't have the technical assistance to execute these plans, we will have a big problem with the ultimatum date being 2028. So we are working now on making a list to coordinate it, for example, with the BZK and the Vereniging of Nederlandse Gemeentes. We are busy with that. We requested them to help us. We are making the list of professionals that we need, that we are going to bring them in for them to contribute and work on the execution of the projects in a way that we can really tap in the remaining 230 millions to execute. This housing project is a typical example of not being executed because of lack of professionals, technical professionals necessary to execute a huge project like that. And as you know, VROMI is limited in its professionals to help this community. You cannot expect from VROMI, with the limited amount of civil service that they have, that they can guide the country as such and also guide these huge projects to realize, for example, this housing project. I still believe that there is a possibility, as I've negotiated with the World Bank and with the Netherlands and with the steering committee, that we should get more time after 2028 to continue with the projects that already has been allocated the amounts of funding to be realized. And I have the understanding of the World Bank and also of the Netherlands that they're realizing that as long as we don't have those professionals on the island, we will not be able to execute these plans, but we are working on it.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister, and also thank you, members of the media, once more for being a part of today's press briefing. Also, do be reminded for any further questions for any one of the ministers, feel free to address those to their respective cabinets. Honorable ministers of the council, members of the media, and online viewers, this brings us to the end of the live council ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, July 24th, 2024. For rebroadcast, be sure to tune into stmartingov.org, SXM, St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM, Telems, Tel TV Plus, Channel 15, the official Facebook page, Government of St. Martin, and YouTube channel for video on demand, St. Martin's YouTube channel, which is Government of St. Martin. On behalf of our team at the Department of Communication, I am Charity Dunker, thanking everyone for tuning in.